and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the why, what and how of newspaper reading. Today we will discuss the articles displayed on the screen from the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 25th October 2018, and the timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So let us start our discussion for the day. In continuation of our series on discussion of the questions that were asked in the mains examination of 2018, today we will discuss a question that was asked in the General Studies paper 2. So today we will discuss the question which was related to the reforms that are required in the WTO in the context of the trade war and especially keeping in mind the interest of India. So this will fall under the General Studies paper 2 of the mains examination under the subtopic Important International Institutions, their structure and mandate. So let us try to understand the approach for writing such questions. Now, as you may be already aware that United States has been involved in tariff wars with China, India and other countries. Now, the WTO has emerged as the main resolution body in the ongoing trade war. Now, in the Daily News Simplified of 20th July 2018, we have discussed about the trade war that is going on between India and United States. Further, you should understand that WTO is involved in the resolution of such trade wars with the use of its dispute settlement mechanism, which has also been explained in the same DNS of 20th July 2018. Now, the context of this answer could have been the trade war between India and US. And another part of this answer could have been the dispute settlement mechanism of WTO. However, now the question arises about the reform of WTO. Now, the issue of WTO reform was covered in the September edition of the Focus under the topic 10th BRICS Summit. Now, at this summit, BRICS countries, including India, asserted that the dispute in the selection process of new appellate body members needs to be quickly resolved with regard to WTO. Now, this issue for the selection process of new appellate body was to be resolved quickly because it paralyzed the dispute settlement mechanism of WTO. Now, when we talk about the WTO reform in the present context, it is basically about the WTO's appellate body. Now, the issue of reform of WTO's appellate body has also been covered in the September edition of Focus. And regarding this, the Focus reads that the dispute settlement mechanism of WTO has been in news in the context of being a resolution medium in the ongoing trade wars between US and other countries, including India. And if you notice, the statement is similar to the context of the question of the mains examination. Now, this section of the Focus also discussed about the dispute settlement mechanism of WTO. However, let us try to understand what are the issues related to the appellate body of WTO. Now, regarding the appellate body's composition, you should know that it is composed of 7 members who are appointed for a term of 4 years. And they are appointed by the dispute settlement body, which comprises of all the 164 WTO members. Now, you should understand that the dispute settlement body's decisions are taken by consensus and not by majority vote. Therefore, the formal objection by any member country or member state can block the appointment or reappointment of the appellate body members. Now, this consensus method for the appointment of members to the appellate body has raised concerns in the current times. Now, the current concern is that United States has been continuously blocking the appointment of new appellate body members. And you know that the members to the appellate body are selected by a consensus method. That is why the objection of United States is not leading to appointment in the new appellate body. So in this context, the strength of appellate body has reduced from 7 to 4 and it would further reduce to 1 by December 2019 if no new member is appointed. Now, the question in the exam asked about the WTO's survival in the present context. So, the current concern with regard to survival is that any reduction of members below 3 would render the WTO's dispute settlement mechanism useless. This is because the appellate body requires 3 members to decide on a dispute. And apart from this, the absence of full strength has increased the workload on the present members and has reduced the efficiency of the appellate body. Now, a question related to the appellate body of the WTO was also asked in the test series of Rao's IAS. And the test series of Rao's IAS provides the recommended structure for the answer. It also provides facts and concepts to cite in answer. For example, if you see the recommended structure, it tries to incorporate the current reason for WTO appellate body and the DSM to be in news. So this gives us the context of the question that was asked in the UPSC exam. Now, hopefully you have understood the approach for attempting such questions and the way in which DNS test series and Focus help you in answering such questions. Now let us move on to the discussion of today's newspaper. This article on page number 10 is related to Supreme Court's ban on the sale of BS4 vehicles from 2020. So this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Issues on Environment. And this forms a part of a very important topic for your preliminary examination point of view, that is air pollution. Now, if you look at the questions that were asked in the preliminary examination in the previous years, you will find that many questions have been asked based on the air pollution. For example, there was one question in the year 2016, another question was asked in 2014, there were two questions in the preliminary examination in 2013, and there was another question in 2011. So this becomes very important for us from preliminary examination point of view. So first let us try to understand what is meant by the BS4 and BS6 norms, what is the current status of their implementation, and we will also try to solve these questions in the end of our discussion. Now this article is in news because Supreme Court has banned the sale and registration of motor vehicles which conform to the emission standards of Bharat Stage 4 in the entire economy from April 1, 2020. Now this means that any vehicle which conforms to the Bharat Stage 4 emission norms cannot be sold or registered after April 1, 2020. And in this regard, the country will have to shift to cleaner Bharat 6 fuel norms by April 1, 2020. And you should know that Bharat stage emission norms are standards which are instituted by the government to regulate output of air pollutants from motor vehicles. Now, what are the Bharat stage emission standards? So these are the standards instituted by the government to regulate the output of air pollutions from the motor vehicles from internal combustion engine equipments, which include motor vehicles. Now the Bharat stage emission standards are similar to the European emission norms, and India has been following those norms. However, the implementation of the BS4 emission standard has been delayed as compared to the European emission norms. Further, the BS4 norms had been enforced in the country since April 2017. However, another important fact is that the government is planning to skip the BS5 norms, and it is directly introducing the adoption of BS6 norms by 2020. So this is an important fact and should be kept in mind that BS5 norms have actually never been implemented or will never be implemented. And these BS5 norms were originally scheduled for 2019. However, now the government will skip the implementation of BS5 standard and it is directly moving on to BS6 from the currently implemented BS4 norms. So these are some of the facts related to the Bharat stage emission standard norms. Now let us understand the difference between the BS4 and the BS6 standards. So the first main difference between the BS4 and the BS6 standards is related to the presence of sulfur in the vehicular pollution. And regarding this, the BS6 fuel is estimated to bring down about 80% reduction in the emission of sulfur. And you should know that under the BS4 norms, the emission standards were about 50 parts per million and now it has been brought down to 10 parts per million under the BS6. Further, by the implementation of BS6 norm, the harmful nitrogen oxides from the diesel cars can be brought down by nearly 70%. And similarly, the nitrous oxide emissions can be brought down in petrol cars by 25%. The third major aspect is related to the particulate matter. And we know that these are the most harmful components of air pollution. And these include the PM2.5 emission and the PM10 emissions. So by the implementation of BS6 standards, the emission of particulate matter in the diesel cars can be brought down by about 80%. So these are the three important benefits of implementation of BS6 norms and they are an improvement over the BS4 norms. So all these points should be kept in mind from your preliminary examination point of view. Now as UPSC has previously asked questions related to the pollutants emitted by the thermal power plants and the steel industry, you should try and learn about the major pollutants emitted by the vehicles. So the pollutants emitted by the vehicles become important for us from exam point of view. So the first kind of pollutants are the particulate matter. The second major pollutants that are emitted by the vehicles include the volatile organic compounds and these include benzene, acetaldehyde and butadiene. And these volatile organic compounds are very dangerous because these pollutants react with nitrogen oxides in the presence of sunlight and they form ground level ozone. And you should know that it is a major ingredient of the smog. And it is due to the reaction of volatile organic compounds, you should know that photochemical smog is formed. And the three other pollutants emitted by vehicles include the nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides and greenhouse gases like CO2. And you know that nitrogen oxides and sulfur oxides are important components of the acid rain. So all these pollutants should be kept in mind from exam point of view. Now the question that was asked in 2016 required us to identify the atmospheric gases which are considered in calculating the air quality index. Now, if you look at the gases, you will identify that carbon dioxide is not considered for calculation of air quality index. And by this, you can easily eliminate the A, C, and D options. So, the correct answer comes out to be carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. And similarly, methane is also not considered for the calculation of air quality index. However, you should further learn about the gases which are considered for the calculation of air quality index. Now, the question that was asked in 2014 read, which of the following are some important pollutants released by the steel industry in India? The gases given are oxides of sulfur, oxides of nitrogen, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide. The correct answer was D because all of these pollutants are released by the steel industry in India. Now, if you look at the question that was asked in 2013, it reads, photochemical smog is a resultant of the reaction among. Now, the correct answer in this case was nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and peroxyacetyl nitrate in the presence of sunlight. Now, if you go through the NCERT of class 11th of chemistry subject, you will find that there is a chapter named environmental chemistry. This chapter talks about various kinds of pollutions, for example, atmospheric pollution, which includes tropospheric pollution, acid rains, and it also talks about the formation of photochemical smog. Now, regarding the photochemical smog, this chapter says that nitrogen dioxide and ozone are strong oxidizing agents and can react with unburned hydrocarbons in the polluted air to form chemicals such as formaldehyde, acrolein, and peroxyacetyl nitrate or PAN. So, these were precisely the options that were given in the exam of 2013. So, you should go through this chapter of class 11th NCERT to understand the various kinds of environmental pollutions. Now, regarding another question that was asked in 2013, it reads, acid rain is caused by pollution of environment by. So, the correct answer in this case was nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide. Now, regarding the question that was asked in 2011, the question reads, which of the above is or are the emissions from coal combustion at the thermal power plants? And the gases given are carbon dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, and oxides of sulfur. So, all the three are correct. Hence, the correct answer was D, that is 1, 2, and 3. Now, after going through this article, you should try and solve these questions from preliminary examination point of view and put your answers in the comment section. With this, let us move on to the next article. Now, this article on page number 3 is related to a ban on herbicide by the Punjab government. Now, this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Issues on Environment. Now, the Punjab government has banned the sale of glyphosate, and it is a kind of herbicide, which means it is used for killing a wide variety of weeds, and it is used in almost all crops in Punjab. Now, why has this herbicide been banned? This is because, according to experts, it is a cancer-causing substance. Further, it is known for causing health problems, and it has the potential to damage human DNA. So, these are the two reasons why glyphosate has been banned. Now, another important fact that you should know that the glyphosate herbicide is allowed by the Central Insecticide Board and Registration Committee only for tea gardens and for non-cropped areas. And the tea is not grown in the state of Punjab. That is why the government has banned the sale of glyphosate. So the points which are important for us from exam point of view are the name of this herbicide, what are its adverse health effects, and where it is currently allowed. Now, if you go through the previous year paper of 2012, you will find a similar question that was asked in the preliminary examination. The question reads, vultures which used to be very common in Indian countryside some years ago are rarely seen nowadays, and this is attributed to. Now, the correct answer in this case was that it is attributed to a drug used by cattle owners for treating their diseased cattle, and the name of this drug was diclofenac. Now, that is why the name of this herbicide, which has been banned by the Punjab government, is important for us from preliminary examination point of view. So, you should try and answer this question and put your answer in the comment section. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 10 talks about a missile deal between India and Israel. So, it will form a part of preliminary examination syllabus under the topic Current Events of National Importance. Now, you should know that such important missile deals are important for us from exam point of view. This is because if you see the question paper of 2018, a similar question was asked, and the question was about Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, THAAD, sometimes seen in news. So a similar question can be asked on the missile deal which is in news. So the news article reads that Israel's aerospace industries or IAI has signed a deal of $777 million with Bharat Electronics Limited of India. And this deal is related to the supply of additional Barak 8 long range surface to air missile or LRSAM system. And this supply is for the 7 warships of Indian Navy. Now regarding the LRSAM, the long-range surface-to-air missile systems can intercept aerial targets up to a range of 80 kilometers. And regarding Barak 8, you should know that it is a Hebrew word for lightning. And it is an Indian-Israeli surface-to-air missile system. So this is an important fact for us from exam point of view. Further, it is designed to defend against any type of airborne threat, including aircrafts, helicopters, anti-ship missiles, unmanned aerial vehicles, and ballistic missiles. So this missile is a part of the missile defense system. So these are a few facts, and let us look at a question which can be asked in the preliminary examination. Now if you look at the question that was asked in 2018, the question read, what is Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, THAAD, sometimes seen in the news? So the correct answer in this case was that it is an American anti-missile system, and you should know that it was in news because America had supplied this THAAD system to the South Korea to defend itself against the attack from North Korea in year 2017. So similarly, such question can be asked related to the Barak 8 as well. So if you have a look at this question, what is Barak 8 sometimes seen in the news? So simply you can answer that it is an India-Israel surface-to-air missile system. So by looking at these questions, you understand that simple questions can be asked based on such news items. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 18 is related to a cell-sized robot that has been developed by MIT or the Massachusetts Institute of Technology of United States of America. Now this will form a part of the preliminary examination syllabus under the topic General Science. And if you look at the questions that are asked in the previous years related to general science, you will find that normally questions require us to identify the importance of any technology or the use of such technology. For example, the question in 2015 required us to identify the use of nanotechnology in health sector. Further, in the year 2012, the question was related to stem cell technology, and it required us to identify the use of stem cells. And the question that was asked in 2012 was about the characteristics of graphene, and it was about the use of graphene. So this is one way of approaching questions related to science and technology which are generally in news. So let us look at this article from preliminary examination point of view. And at the end of this discussion, we will also try to answer these questions. Now the news article reads that the scientists from MIT have developed a method to mass produce robots which are of the size of a cell of human body. And these robots can be used to monitor conditions inside an oil or gas pipeline and to search out diseases. And these cell-sized robots can float through the bloodstream. So these are the three important aspects of these cell-sized robots. That is, these can be used to monitor conditions inside oil and gas pipelines. These can be used to search out diseases, and these can flow through the bloodstream, and that is why they are able to find out diseases within the human body. Further, some other facts which are related to these robots and are important for us are that these devices are developed by syn cells or synthetic cells, and they are developed by a process called autoperforation. However, it is not important for us to know about the process of autoperforation. However, one important fact is that these systems use a two-dimensional form of carbon which is called as graphene. And this graphene forms the outer structure of the synthetic cells which are used to develop these cell-sized robots. So these are only 2-3 important facts which should be learned and kept in mind from exam point of view. Now if you look at the question that was asked in 2015, the question reads, with reference to the use of nanotechnology in health sector, which of the following statements are correct? The first statement reads, targeted drug delivery is made possible by nanotechnology. This statement is correct. And the second statement reads, nanotechnology can largely contribute to gene therapy. This statement is also correct. So the correct answer in this case was C, that is both 1 and 2. So simply we learn that the question which is asked related to important technologies is the usage or importance of that technology. Similarly, the question that was asked in 2012 read, with reference to stem cells frequently in the news, which of the following statements are correct? The first statement reads, stem cells can be derived from mammals only. Now this statement was incorrect because stem cells can be derived from all multicellular organisms. Secondly, the stem cell can be used for screening new drugs. Now this statement was correct. And thirdly, stem cells can be used for medical therapies. Now this statement was also correct. Hence the correct answer was B, that is 2 and 3. Now the question that was asked in 2012 read, graphene is frequently in news recently. What is its importance? So again, the question which is related to graphene is related to its importance and its usage. So the first is that it is a two-dimensional material and has good electrical conductivity. Now this statement is correct. The second is that it is one of the thinnest but strongest tested materials so far. Now this statement is also correct. However, the third statement reads, it is entirely made of silicon and has high optical transparency. Now this statement is incorrect because graphene is another form of carbon and is not entirely made of silicon. And the fourth statement is related to the use of graphene. So it reads, it can be used as conducting electrodes required for touch screens, LCDs and organic LEDs. So this statement was also correct. So the correct answer in this case was C, that is 1, 2 and 4 only. So questions related to science and technology are generally about the importance of any technology or product which has been discovered or about the usage of such technology. Now, after going through this article and the previous year questions that were asked in the general science, you should try and answer this question from prelims point of view and put your answer in the comment section. With this, let us move on to the next article. Now, this article on page number 9 appears in the context of the ongoing crisis that has affected the NBFC sector of India. So, in short, this article explains what is the ongoing issue or the ongoing crisis of NBFC all about. This article further explains that how this crisis started. So this will fall under the General Studies paper 3 of the mains examination under the topic Indian economy. Now the details of the NBFC crisis and why it started in the first place has been discussed in the Daily News Simplified of 26 September 2018 by Naveed sir. And in this he has highlighted the various issues that the NBFC market is facing. For example, one of the issue is the issue related to crisis or lack of liquidity. It further talks about the crisis of IL and FS, which started because of the lack of liquidity, and due to that lack of liquidity, the IL and FS defaulted on its loan repayments. Further, this DNS explains the way in which the NBFCs or non-banking finance companies raise their funds. And finally, this DNS explains the asset liability mismatch that is affecting the NBFC sector. So you should try and go through this video to understand this issue in detail. With this, let us move on to the next article. This article on page number 12 states that the European Union's Parliament has approved a ban on the single-use plastics. And this is a part of the preliminary examination syllabus. And you might know that this year's World Environment Day, which fell on June 5th, was celebrated in India. And its theme was Beat the Plastic Pollution. And we have discussed the issue of plastic pollution, the problem of single-use plastics, and the various facets of the World Environment Day under the Daily News Simplified of 6 June 2018. So let us go through the Daily News Simplified of 6 June 2018 and revise the topics of World Environment Day and the problem of plastic pollution. The World Environment Day is celebrated on June 5th. It is an important date from prelims point of view. Now the theme of this year's World Environment Day was Beat the Plastic Pollution. It says that India produces about 25,000 tons of plastic waste. Now there were many important events that were celebrated yesterday. And in these events, Prime Minister highlighted the need for effective plastic waste management. And he said that an unclean environment hurts the poor and the vulnerable the most. Further, a delegation of European Union embassies adopted a green pledge on this day. They issued a statement to discontinue the use of plastics, including plastic straws, stirrers, cups, water bottles, in their embassies and switch to eco-friendly material. These plastic articles which are mentioned here are actually known as single-use plastics. Further, the Mumbai airport had decided to switch from imposing fines on those who litter to using witty signage boards. Now, this is an effort to generate awareness and to bring about a behavioral change. Also, Tamil Nadu government has said that it would be banning the manufacturing, storage and use of plastic products. So, the key points that emerge from this article are that World Environment Day is celebrated on June 5th. The theme of this year's World Environment Day was Beat the Plastic Pollution. Also, this is the data which can be used for the mains examination, that India produces 25,000 tons of plastic pollutants. The statement of Prime Minister in this regard is also important from mains point of view, and it can be used in any of the answers which are related to environment, or a question can be asked about how unclean environment hurts the poor and the vulnerable the most. Further, this can be used about highlighting the importance of behavioral change and not just about putting fines on each and every activity of pollution. The editorial on page number 8 analyzes India's framework to discourage the use of plastics. So let us have a look at it. The editorial says that The solid waste management rules and the plastic waste management rules of 2016 are actually not being implemented, and mostly they remain on paper only. Further, the editorial says that the state governments have showed little concern towards the single-use plastics like straws and stirrers, etc. Now, according to government's estimate, about 60% of the 25,000 tons of plastic waste is being collected daily. Now, this means that about 10,000 tons of the trash is being released into the environment, and a lot of it is going into the sea. Further, the Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Meghna river system is actually on the UN map for polluting the oceans by the plastic pollution. And the effects of plastic which finds its way into sea are that they threaten marine life and the well-being of people, as microplastics are now found even in drinking water. So the key points that emerge out of this are that solid waste management rules and plastic waste management rules of 2016 are not being implemented properly. Secondly, the state governments have not shown any concern towards the single-use plastics like straws and stirrers. Also, most of the plastic waste that is generated daily is finding its way into seas and oceans. India's major river system, the Ganga, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers, are adding to the plastic pollution into the oceans. And finally, the microplastics and plastics have adverse effect on marine lives, and they are finding their way into drinking water as well. The editorial highlights some of the issues with the plastic management framework of India. Now, the article says that the plastic waste management rules actually require the manufacturers of compostable bags to get a certificate from the Central Pollution Control Board. Now, despite these rules, counterfeit products are entering into market. That is, they are not complying with the plastic waste management rules. Also, the editorial highlights that local bodies which are actually mandated to manage the plastic waste have not been successful in fulfilling their responsibilities. Further, the state level monitoring committees that are provided under the rules have not been made accountable till date. So, these are some of the issues with the plastic waste management rules that have been highlighted in the editorial. The editorial further provides that what should be done to manage this haphazard situation. So, we will have a look at it. The editorial finally concludes that it should be ensured that the Environmental Protection Act 1986, which is the overarching law that enables anti-pollution rules, be issued. And once the rules are issued, they should be implemented in letter and spirit. Further, the editorial says that regulations should stop the manufacturing of single-use plastic articles, for example, the carry bags or cutleries, and it should encourage the use of biodegradable materials. So the editorial highlights India's framework related to the use of plastic, and it also analyzes the gravity of the plastic pollution situation in India. Further, the editorial analyzes some of the issues with the present framework, which is related to the management of plastic waste. And finally, the editorial provides what needs to be done to solve this situation. Now, since World Environment Day has been celebrated in India, let us also have a look at how the Constitution deals with the issues of environment. Now, the preamble to our Constitution ensures a socialist pattern of society, and it also talks about the dignity of individual. So, through this, the decent standard of living and pollution-free environment becomes inherent to us. So, the preamble indirectly talks about a pollution-free and a clean environment. The Article 51AG, which is actually a fundamental duty, also says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve the natural environment, including the forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Thus, the fundamental duty explicitly talks about a clean and healthy environment. The Article 48A, which is actually a directive principle of state policy and was added to the Constitution by the 42nd Amendment, says that the state shall endeavour to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. So, the fundamental duty talks about the roles and responsibilities of citizens towards the environment, while the 48A, which is the DPSP, talks about the role of state in conserving the environment. Now, the Article 21, which deals with life and personal liberty, now its scope has been enhanced by Supreme Court in the case of Mangal Gandhi versus Union of India. The Supreme Court treated the right to life in pollution-free environment as a part of the fundamental right to life under the Article 21. So the Supreme Court has enhanced the scope of Article 21 to include clean environment. Now, as far as the local bodies are concerned, the panchayats under the 11th schedule have been empowered under the Constitution to take measures such as soil conservation, water management, forestry, and protection of environment and promotion of ecological aspects. Also under the 12th schedule, the urban municipal bodies have the responsibility for providing public health, sanitation, conservation, and solid waste management. They have also to deal with the urban forestry and protection of environment and promotion of ecological aspects. As far as constitution is concerned, the environmental issues have been dealt with explicitly under the articles 51A, 48A, Article 21, and under the panchayats and municipal bodies in the 11th and 12th schedule. And it is also mentioned implicitly in the preamble because it tries to create a socialist society, and it also provides for dignity of individual. Now, previously in the mains examination, questions have been asked related to plastic hazards in the year 2002 and in the year 2005. Now, a question can be asked about India's framework in dealing with the plastic pollution. This has been discussed in the present article. Also, in the prelims in the year 2014, a question was asked related to the Earth R. Now, the correct answer to this question was option C, because the Earth R is not an initiative of UNEP and it is an initiative of the World Wildlife Fund. Similarly, the points that are important from prelims point of view with respect to the World Environment Day celebrations are that it is celebrated on 5th June. The present year's theme was Beat Plastic Pollution, and it is an initiative of UN General Assembly and was started based on the Stockholm Conference of 1972, which deals with integrating human interactions and the environment. With this, we have come to the end of today's discussion. Now let us move on to the question for the day.